Psychonauts 2 is just about the best sequel you could ask for. Like the 2005 cult classic, it exhibits passion in every area, is overflowing with creativity, and the ingenious mechanic of having levels take place in the minds of characters holds strong. Although the game may fall slightly short of its predecessor in some regards, it improves upon it and brings enough to the table to feel like a worthy follow-up, even after 16 years. While it's been almost my entire lifetime since the original released, Psychonauts 2 takes place mere days after its ending. Our hero, Rasputin Quattro, is under the impression that his work in that game earned him the rank of an agent at the Psychonaut headquarters. However, once he gets there, he's disappointed to find out that he's only eligible to join the intern program. This setup is pretty savvy because it establishes the lingering objective as once again becoming a Psychonaut. This leads way for the actual story to be whatever it wants to be, and in this case it's about the history of the organization and Raz's family. Although these two plot threads untangle and intertwine, leading to some confusion and forgotten story beats, they exist to fuel the pacing and strengthen character arcs. While certain characters that were integral to the first game, such as Coach Oleander and Sasha 9, do feel skimped out on, in place, new characters and old yet unfleshed out characters are given plenty of depth. The story's approach of creating this arc about the history of the Psychonauts while simultaneously developing characters is solid, but there are some distractions due to how each level tells its own story. Luckily, the overarching plot is only there to allow these levels to exist. Unfortunately, they don't tell these incredible abstract stories about mental illness like they did in the first game, but they focus on more general mental health issues, psychological topics, and the brain in general. Performance anxiety is conveyed through a level where you cook food for harsh puppet judges, each representing a character from the Psychonaut headquarters. The concept of how we express ourselves through different archetypes is illustrated by a level where you search for drawings of a librarian at different stages of her life and combine them to create the real version of her. There is one here where you practically go on an acid trip with Jack Black and help him to reunite a band comprised of the 5 senses. It's also well thought out, even if that amount of cleverness found in the original isn't quite here. Furthermore, each level is no longer defined by just its concept or how well it portrays a certain topic symbolically. They are far more environmentally realized, mostly due to the upgrade and outstanding art direction, which I won't even bother to dwell on. It speaks for itself. It's complemented by these tiny details like the occasional 2D sections, this awesome portal mechanic, and the uniquely designed civilians of each mind. Most of all though, these levels rival those of the original because of the second-to-second gameplay. In the original, everything felt like it needed purpose, so platforming often came in the form of climbing up a ladder, swinging on a pole, or walking on a tightrope, because those are objects that would work in almost any context. Psychonauts 2 is more lax. Not to say there are random floating pieces of terrain, but what would otherwise be typical platforming staples are themed to make sense. While enemies are spread out more sporadically, the variety of them helps with pacing. It no longer feels like you're just shooting or punching away at groups of sponges during combat encounters. Every enemy has a psychic ability that works best for defeating them. Doubts are flammable, so your best bet is pyrokinesis. Judges carry a gavel, so the strategy is often to grab it with telekinesis and throw it back at them. Bad moods always have a source, and you need to use clairvoyance in order to find and destroy it. Along the way, you'll also unlock a handful of new abilities, which all have uses both in combat and platforming. Mental Connection, for example, allows you to bring enemies closer together and to you for the sake of convenience. From a platforming standpoint, it lets you grapple onto thoughts, and in a psychological context, it lets you connect ideas within a person's mind to change their outlook. All of these incredible innovations not only lead to dumb fun, but they work for reasons beyond it's a platforming video game. To an extent, Psychonauts 2 isn't foremost a platformer. This was the case with the original as well, but that was because storytelling infiltrated each level, while platforms were sparse. Here, however, it's because of how much goes on outside the levels. Exploring the area around the headquarters will show you just how much passion the developers put into this game. It may not be completely filled with things to do, but there are people to talk to and side missions to complete, and once again, you are given a scavenger hunt. This hub world also connects with the actual levels, because the abilities you pick up can be used to get behind certain barriers. And yes, there is also platforming, but once again, it works in the context of the environment. Although I was playing this game on a slight time crunch, I couldn't help but continuously fool around here. And although I had other more important commitments, this is a game I couldn't help but get attached to. Psychonauts 2 may have had obvious success written all over it prior to release, but I was still skeptical, and yet now I'm in love. There aren't many huge problems I can recall it having, just inconsistencies and minor flaws. There are some hiccups with its story, and I can't wholeheartedly say it conveys mental health as creatively as its predecessor, but the level design, the platforming, the combat, the characters, the art direction, these are what makes Psychonauts 2 an easy contender for Game of the Year.